I bought the JLU with the intention of being able to travel more. My thought process was if I had a more modern Jeep that got better fuel economy and didn't require as many repairs, that I'd be able to spend more time focusing on just the journey and traveling, and especially having something with AC, I really thought it was going to be the better option. When I had planned all this out, I thought I was going to build it into the ultimate overlanding off-road machine, kind of utilizing all the plans that I had originally intended to do to Bonita, except for inside of a 4-door. I had thought out in my head exactly what I wanted to do, and also took a little bit of inspiration from Drew Sims videos. Well, I guess I took a lot of inspiration from Drew Sims videos, but kind of had a general idea of what I was going to do from the beginning, and my only holdback was I had no woodworking experience. But after planning out in my head exactly how I wanted to put it all together, I decided it wouldn't be a bad idea to start. The only thing I needed now was a purpose. A few months ago, Deep Sleep for Jeep gave me that purpose. I had made a deal with Deep Sleep for Jeep that if they paid me a small percentage, I would supply them with multiple videos promoting their products and maybe even running their TikTok page. A while after looking it over, they agreed to this. I was psyched. I was finally going to get the opportunity to do what I had been wanting to do. Even though the pay was only going to be able to cover the payments on the Jeep, it was going to be just enough that I could find other ways to make money for food and any other expenses I need. This was just the kick in the butt I needed to actually start getting to work on building the Jeep into what I wanted it to be in the first place. Even though we technically own a table saw, it was at my grandparents' house up in Kansas, so I had to get a little bit creative with how I needed to make my cuts. And I needed them to be clean, so it was pretty interesting using a bunch of budget tools, but it also helped me realize that this is something that pretty much anyone could do with a pretty small budget. One thing I'm glad I didn't totally cheap out on was the wood. I've seen a lot of DIY builds done with cheap plywood, and it never really looked quite right, so I didn't get the best of the best, but what I got seems to work pretty well. And it ended up holding together pretty well as well. Another thing I didn't like from other builds I had seen was not staining the wood, and even though I kind of made a brief decision on which stain I was going to use, I think the color looks pretty good too. One thing I learned while working at my current job is measuring will make or break something, so I got pretty comfortable with the ruler, and I think it definitely helped me while I was working on this build. And I pulled a lot of late nighters. Frankly, I've been tired a lot lately. There was even days I stayed up till past midnight and still had to go to work the next day. I work out in the field, so being out at 100 degrees, Texas, pretty rough. But I was determined to get it done. However, I hadn't heard from Deep Sleep in a while. Trying to go over the paperwork and what things I need to sign to keep everybody accountable. Eventually, I just kind of lost contact with them. I made a few short videos in the span of time for them, stuff they had asked me to do, and I still haven't received my payment for them. Started to think that maybe I should try to find a second option, just a backup to make a little bit of extra money, or maybe something a little more reliable, and Deep Sleep could be my second backup. I saw an ad on Instagram for Root House Coffee, a small coffee shop down in Pagosa Springs that I had visited multiple times during my travels. I contacted them and they offered me a job as a barista. This was my second chance. This one I was confident in. But turns out there was a miscommunication. They offered the job at full-time, or at least promised to be close to full-time, but found out that full-time for them was 27 hours a week at $13.50 an hour. Not something I'd be able to afford. Still hadn't heard back from Deep Sleep. And that was it. I had lost motivation and, frankly, mostly lost interest in building this thing, but I was still gonna finish it. Off camera, I finished installing the latches as well as the faces of the drawers, and I hadn't decided whether or not I wanted to stain them yet, but finally, after hours and hours of blood, sweat, and tears for the past few months, it was done. Both drawers are held together with lockable compression latches. The left side's fully dedicated to the kitchen with a custom chopping block as well as an unfoldable sink and propane stove. I decided to make the right side fully dedicated to storage space. Right now it's just a massive empty bin. I also made sure to leave just enough space to store things in the cubby underneath. I have a tarp there right now. I turned the factory rear bumper into a water tank to store about 10 gallons of water. I have it hooked up to a water pump so I can get pressurized water at any time. This is great for washing dishes or even if you need to take a shower. I have a 1100 watt power inverter and a little electric bay with a onboard fuse panel for added accessories. Big space on the left to be able to climb in and out, and on the other side I have a storage bin. This project has been something I've been planning out for a while now. Something I had planned on living in.